You know, there are three places that I spent more time than I think I did in classrooms. Okay? One was the seminar hall.
Yeah.
The seminar hall was where we did a lot of plays. I did, like I said, a number of plays in the institute as well as from the hostel. That's where I made a lot of my friends. But that was more important. I got to meet people from other disciplines and other hostels, and that's how we got together. The second, of course, is our own hostel. You know, I understand that a lot of changes have happened there. I'd love to see where it is now. But I also seen it's getting overloaded. You know, at our time we were all, I think, double rooms in the first year, second year, and then we had single rooms. But now I hear it's 3 per room. So I think there's a lot to be done there. I'd like to see what's there. And then, of course, it was the swimming pool. I used to swim every day. I used to be water polo captain for my thing. So yes, that's another thing because I heard they've upgraded that tremendously. I'd love to see where that new things are. I was part of the Mittal Sports Complex when it was developed, so I'd love to go and see that also again and see it active. That time it was under construction and sort of inaugurated, but it'd be great to see everybody taking part and making full use of that opportunity to have a world-class sports facility now on campus. The one thing I remember as cultural secretary, having the first ever social in Kara. Yes. So we decided that, look, we're going to have a social at a hostel level where we would invite, another hostel of another university and invite them over for an evening and a social where, where we could host and have an interactions and all that. So I remember how we went through approvals with the warden, with the, with the board, hostel board. And we were said, go ahead. And there were lots of terms and conditions and everything which was set up, but we said, we'll work it, and we worked to it. And that's where, for the first time ever, I think it was Aravali that did it and followed the same playbook, Jwala, and then us at Kara. So that was one thing I will remember. I never allowed academics to sort of slow me down. I realized, you got to realize that I'm not going to be a 10-pointer. I was very clear. I mean, I'm not going to go because there's so much more things for me to do during my youth. So I said, what's a level that will be reasonable and how much can I balance? So I put a balance on each and everything. Then what did we do? Other friends and peers also did the same. And we did, the first thing was, guys, I can't attend every class if I have to do this. So we had a group. Somebody went to this class, I went to this class, and then during the minor majors, we would all get together the evening before, make sure the other taught us and had our notes, and that's how we did manage to do all these things together. Funding was always the challenge. The fact is that if we have a vision of where we want to take the institute, we guys are so smart, we know how to figure it out and support the institute on it. I think if we take projects that are really close to ourselves, work with the institute, align it with the vision and development opportunity it has, we can both work together in complete harmony as well as in complete network to be able to take and develop the institute further and further. The same way in which American universities have done, the governance of the process has been established, the ability to execute projects that have been taken and funded has been established. You have roles and responsibilities within the institute and a foundation now established. I think we have the absolute opportunity now to sustain, but more importantly, raise more and more contributions to causes that are dear to us, to all of us. The institute has a plan and has a sort of developmental activities going on for the next few years, which is, some of the mundane stuff. Getting the hostel upgraded or maintenance, getting sort of the facilities and everything that are here upgraded to better laboratories and all. That's where the general fund comes in. So even a small amount, no matter how small or how large, put into the general fund gets incorporated into the overall development of the institute. If there's something dear to us, I've seen certain alumnus who said cybersecurity is something I believe is where we need the IIT Delhi can excel in, and we'd like to support that. So is there an opportunity for us to support, academically or in terms of a scholarship or more research activities? There's a number of activities. I mean, we were surprised at how far the institute had taken. And in different areas, there was textile, there was physics, there was, in civil engineering. So all of these things are available. So that's another opportunity. I think the best thing to do is come over to the endowment office, have a discussion, and you could see how your contributions can really make a difference. And please, even the smallest contribution goes a long way in the institute. It's an endowment, which means it is forming a corpus. That corpus is then invested, and the institute's done a lot of good work to make sure that the investments that are being made are being done in a very competitive nature, which gives us the best returns on investment, and which is therefore able to sustain it in perpetuity.
Hi folks, welcome to this episode of the IIT Delhi podcast. Today we have the opportunity to sit with and converse with the ex-CEO, in fact the first CEO of the IIT Delhi Endowment Management Foundation, Mr. Vinay Piparsania. He is an extremely passionate alumni and has had a stellar career in the automotive industry, working with the likes of BMW, Ford, Tata, etc. He has been pivotal in the formative years of this endowment fund. We are so glad to have you back, sir.
Oh, thank you, Akshay. It's been a pleasure to be here amongst you, and more importantly, it's so nice to be coming back to the office, and great to see how much the tribe has grown and how much more activity and how much more engagement you're working on. So great job. Thank you so much for keeping that mission on.
We are so glad to have you here. So it's one of those things, I think you would probably treat it as a baby because this is an office that you built. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, you know, when we sort of were setting up the foundation office, one of the sort of purposes that the founders were very keen on was that the office space should be one which should allow for for our visitors, our alumni who have done really well, to be able to see a futuristic view of where IIT development was headed. And the idea was to keep them comfortable, not only the alumni, but also their families, and they would come and visit and they would be keen to drop in. So the idea was, one, let's demonstrate in a real way, show them where we can sort of design as well as take the institute further. The other thing is that the rest of the institute, as you can see, was going through a lot of work going around. Yes. And that's great. And the idea was to have a space where even if you're visiting, they could drop in. They could use this as an office. They could use this as a place where they could have their other visits of other alumni and get together. So the idea was to be able to create that warmth and that come on over kind of environment. And that's really how we sort of worked on this.
It's absolutely lovely to look at the faces of alumni who come here for the first time. They're in disbelief that this space exists within IIT Delhi. And I'm sure that intention is translated well.
Correct. It's a celebration, actually. It's a celebration of our time. It's also a celebration of keeping some of the cues that we sort of grew up with. I don't know, I mean, for example, these pillars that we had here. Yes. We celebrated them. These were, I mean, most of us who did mechanical engineering, we actually had a drawing, where we were trying to see how to make, these three-dimensional into two-dimensional drawings, right? How do you do that? How do you sort of build that into a mechanical engineering drawing? So I really like that, and we sort of said, hey, we can't do much with the pillars, but you know what? We're going to celebrate them. We can't take them off. And we then made them to uplighters. So things like that. They were just some ideas that we just loved, and we said, let's make some of the DNA that we've been through and preserve that.
And so going back to the time when you actually made it to IIT, your student days, and made it twice for that matter, what does that story look like?
So, coming into IIT, yes, there is a big story behind that. As a boy, I always wanted to be a mechanical engineer. Believe it or not, I was sort of, I grew up in the US, in New York. That's where I did most of my schooling. But I was at an age in time where you saw, Neil Armstrong land on the moon, where a lot of the world was sort of transforming itself. I had a front seat view when I was there. So I said, that's what I want to be. I want to be an engineer. And I had lots of toys. I had two brothers. I would break them, assemble from 2 toys. I'd make 4 of them, things like that. So when I came, when my dad was back in India and we were here and I joined school, everybody was talking about IIT Delhi. And that's the place to do, the best engineering. So that's when I also got started. I joined school around the 8th grade, and then later on when we were in the 10th and the 11th, that's when we started to study for the exams.
Yeah.
And the JEE was, as always, was hard enough. At that time, it had its own sort of level of difficulty. But I couldn't really go into the tutorial classes. That was something that I wasn't able to relate with that pace and with that way in which those teachings were going.
Yeah.
So a few of us in school, we got together and we studied together.
Oh.
So we actually enrolled into all these classes at that time, and whatever material we had, we would exchange with each other, and we would teach each other. That's how we got it. And I'm happy to say that out of the 5 friends we were, 4 of us got it. The 5th one was really keen to go and do something else. He was more not into science, but more into, he wanted to get into the economics field. So great, he did that. And we 4 sort of qualified in the first round. Now, I didn't quite get the rank I wanted, and I always wanted to be mechanical, but I did join the first year. And when I joined, I thought, it would be easy to change over. Once you're enrolled,
Yes.
you could switch over in the second year or third year. But then there was so much criteria on doing that. And I thought that the best way, just do the exam again. And that's what I did. So
it speaks a lot when the easier option is to give the JEE again.
Sometimes you just have to be more pragmatic, right? I mean, and you say, like, why have you made it so difficult? Okay, you should have got a better rank. Okay, I'll get you a better rank. Now, can you get me the department I want?
Yeah.
But this is something I think was a challenge always. Why isn't it that we could sort of enroll ourselves? And I'm glad to see that IIT has sort of moved on, and now they're getting a lot easier. They're creating the first 2 years, you can do general engineering and move on. So I'm glad to see that the times have started to change.
Yeah, and also at the same time, a lot of optionals
Correct.
Students have available to them. So it facilitates a lot of transdisciplinary and research and academics as well.
Correct.
Just to have a holistic view of things.
And that's what I would like to suggest to everyone. Don't worry about it. The idea is that once you're in the institute, it's the peer group, it's the experience that you get here, it's that sense of being able to focus on what it is that you like to do. And I think the institute is now beginning to offer a lot more of those choices. So I think one, getting through the IIT itself is a tough one, but clearly once you're in an institute, don't worry about the department you get as long as you're in a campus or in a group of sort of topics that you are more or less interested in. You'll figure other things out along the way. So there's no need to panic on. There's a lot more to experience in campus than just academics. There's sports, there's other activities, a lot more to do.
What was it at your time? How was the campus? How did you interact with people around that time?
So one thing I'll tell you philosophically I was very clear about. I am not going to allow my youth and get just into academics. I wanted to have a really active kind of, I want to experience everything that was possible at that age. So we had, firstly, we were independent, away from home, finally you have it. Then you were on a campus that you had access to everything. You had swimming pools, you had squash courts, you had pool, you had tennis courts. So the idea was to experience everything as much as possible. So that's what I did. I mean, I made it, I used to go swimming every summer, every day, used to play squash, went into dramatics, took part in almost every school play, I think, in the Institute's play that was held in the English dramatics, sort of a society. And we used to have the inter-hostel dramatics competition, took part in that. And then, of course, there was Rendezvous. Rendezvous at our time, especially that 80-82 period was sort of when it started. It was just sort of going in.
Right.
And it was evolving to something bigger and bigger and bigger every year.
Yes.
So we were part of that phase where it was sort of possible to do things, and it was sort of transformational. But more importantly, I think that was the time when you realized also was the most healthy sort of diversity on campus, right? Being able to have other institutes join and sort of there. And being able to sort of participate with competitions where, IIT was not just known for academic brilliance, it was more for something else. The real sort of experience that I would say was, about Rendezvous was, let's say, in '84, when in that time you wanted to do something to the group, to show what IIT was all about. So we did an audio visual. And in
Right.
audio visual was, I mean, it's not like what you do today, right? You have videos and you can do you can do a sort of a TikTok video. No, at that time, if you wanted to do something visual, you had to do it in 35 millimeter slides. You would put it into a carousel, and then you would have a projector system and a sound system that had to be synced.
Yes.
And that's what we had. And a brilliant group of, we were 2 batches at our time, 8085 and then the 8185. So we had 2 batches, and we had the brilliance of both photography, the sound system, the whole sort of production, the direction, and we named it after, what we thought what was IIT really about to the rest of the world and to us. We just roll numbers once we come in. The rest of the things are, guys, you'll have to make your own identity and do that. So it was simply called my entry number, 80205. I was the protagonist. And that's how it was done. The first day of the 84 rendezvous, full seminar hall was packed. And that was the first time ever that the whole world got to see what life in IIT was really like, what we did in our hostels, how it was academics, what was sort of, our state of mind, everything in a visual way that was, I think, so well done artistically by that group that it was phenomenal. It was there. And I think till today people talk about that audio visual.
It sounds like an amazing experience now you say it in that way as well.
Right.
I mean, the institute has a lot to offer, right? And it has transitioned in front of you as well. It's been decades now. What is that one thing you think has stayed on? What is that part of life, be it the hostel culture, and what is the one thing which you think has changed for good or bad?
So one thing is clear, that the IIT, the environment that is over here,
Yes.
I think it allows you to discover yourself. I think everybody falls into this trap that it's all about the academics, it's all about the CGPA. This whole competition of being about GPA was always something that our time, and I think everybody was into. I think that thankfully is beginning to change. It shouldn't be just about GPA, it is more about you having an opportunity to discover yourself, discover your own development. But that feeling of independence, the best part I thought IIT had at our time was it was mandatory that we had to stay on campus. That staying on campus, while feels like, oh God, we're sort of moving away and all that, was very important. Because it gave you that feeling of becoming, evolving and there. You have your friendships that come at that time, I think are some of the strongest bonds you ever have. And that's the second thing I would say is still about IIT. Your batchmates, your hostel mates, your wing mates are still some of your best friends. And in spite of, like it's been 40 years for me now, but we are the guys who still stay in touch. We're still, no matter where we are in the world, our families, our kids, all of us are still. And now our kids are getting along with their kids. So it's sort of going along into a circle of life, which is, I think, eternal, perpetuity.
Yeah.
So I think this is where the life on IIT becomes extremely rooted and grounded, but it is something that I think we are all very grateful for. And that is the gratitude that I think evolves, and we would like to sort of have others also experience the same things and benefits of being on campus, being in an IIT, being with a peer group that you sort of know each other about, very like-minded. That's the brilliance of being in IIT.
So how is the transition from IIT to the adult life as an
Adult life. So 2 things I'll tell you that I had experienced. One, after graduating, while graduating actually, I realized I don't think I learned much, from a practical standpoint. And that was something that I was very conscientious about. I said, guys, we did a lot of theory. I wanted to spend a lot more time on the workshops. I wanted to spend a lot more time on actual practicality of
Yes.
application.
Yes.
So this is where I decided that I think when the rest of the, peer group was sort of going for grad school, getting scholarships and others, I decided, no, I'm going to go into an apprenticeship. So I actually joined Tata Motors as a graduate engineer with the intent, I really want to see how a factory or how this thing works. And I was fortunate enough to get selected with the Tata Motors and was thrown into the works in Jamshedpur. I think Again, the same thing happened. We had a lot of batchmates and other group mates from other institutes, but nobody was quite interested. They were all studying for their, for their IM admissions or other admissions. Oh, I wanted to do this. I said, what the hell, guys? We're here. Let's just go and learn all this. Because the same thing, they gave an exposure to everything. You want to go to the forging shop, you want to go into sort of the fitting shop, you want to go to the assembly shop, go ahead guys, you can go anywhere.
Yeah.
So I made it a point to do that, and that's when I really learned. And I thought the next best thing that ever happened was when you're in a company or a group like that, you get to meet a lot more of our alumni. So I was very fortunate that my mentors and my sort of managers that worked, which I was associated with, were all IIT Delhi people. They guided me so much that I'm again grateful to them. And they're very well known people. Ashish Nanda, he was a gold medalist. He was my direct manager. Then Suresh Shivdasani, he was, for 10 years my senior.
Yes.
And he was already sort of, in the Tata Administrative Services. And all of these guys really took me on. And during the whole career that I had with them, they guided me on and allowed me opportunities to learn more, as well as guided me on certain ways on which management and corporate life is about. And that, I think, has helped me even further. So I think once you're out in the big bad world, just be, know what you want to do, discover yourself. So go ahead and chase that. Don't let somebody else's viewpoints or saying this is a better thing to do or something like that. 2, don't be worried about learning, because sooner or later you're going to find somebody from our institute or somebody from an IIT who'd be more than happy to help you along the way. And I think that's another big advantage I learned. So have fun along that journey and do that. That's really how it goes. Yeah.
That's a brilliant way to put in perspective what the students are going to see, right? But what do you have to say about the inclination of students towards entrepreneurship and computer sciences rather than pursuing their core fields?
This is something which I think, maybe at our time, the risk-taking ability or that comfort level of being into a good job maybe was the more sort of done thing, right? I think this whole idea of getting into entrepreneurship, getting yourself into an idea that you want to move further with is brilliant. It's quite a risky thing. It's very courageous to be able to do that. And the sort of support system that you need to do that is sort of now very recognized. So in fact, even while we were at the endowment, most of the founders who had gone through the same entrepreneurship journey which everybody would like to embark on now, they sort of look upon their days, the challenging times that they had, and how is it that they can make the journey easier for some of our recent students and their graduates.
Yes.
So the idea we'd like to encouraging this sort of thing. Why be a job, why look for a job when you can be a job maker, and job creator. And that is where the whole sort of spirit of sort of using your skill set to do that. So I think the choice of an entrepreneurship is a very good one, but it requires a strong amount of commitment. It requires a strong amount of support system, and it definitely requires you to be focused upon certain things that you need to be comfortable with. Yes, life becomes hard. I know some students may have taken loans, they have a family to support and give back to, but the idea is that's where the institutes are now becoming more structured to create ecosystems to support that. So they're incubation centers now. They are nurture funds. They are, other. So I think using our alumni database, if you're getting on to entrepreneurship, I think the idea of partnering different skill sets. You remember, you will need different skill sets as you get around. Some are going to be designers, some are going to be hustlers, some are going to be, marketing guys. So remember always, don't go down it alone. Try to do it yourself. Try to get yourself into, other friends and support from families and, friends there. The other thing is that, yes, the institutes are now offering a lot more. Discover about that. Be a part of that get into applying, get into the competitive nature. So I think it's a brilliant thing. I think it needs a lot of courage, And I think getting started in your third and fourth year, don't mess up your academics. That's very important. That's because at the end of the day, your academics are always going to be a part of where you're referenced and benchmarked, whether you like it or not. But discover yourself, discover the things that really excite you, discover what motivates and drives you, because 24/7, that's the one thing that's going to keep it going. And it has to be about you. It has to be about something that you believe is solving a problem that the world really needs about, and you're ready to take and commit yourself to going there. So great choice to do entrepreneurship, and I wish we had that same sort of courage and the ability to do that at our time. I think it's wonderful to see the next gen taking that on.
You also got a lot of, as you mentioned, a lot of entrepreneurs on board when the endowment was being set up. It's a two-part question. One, how did the opportunity come to you? And secondly, what resonated with your philosophy back then for you to take up this role as well?
So the idea is, after you start working in a corporation or in different positions of leaderships, there's a lot of frustration that also comes in your way, right? And that frustration is basically you got some ideas, but the whole process of taking approvals or taking sort of the internal I need to sign this off and other things like that with the leadership team there takes a while. So one, I think the same skill set that we have used in our corporate lives to grow those businesses, to grow those organizations, we've got to realize that we have the same skills for ourselves. We have the same skills for our own careers, as well as for, if we wanted to take the call, we could do it for our thing. We created a network. Yes, we are part of a very huge structure. It meant taking one or two steps down. You had to start, all over again. And what's wrong with that, right? I think everybody, you sort of get maybe comfortable. There's inertia that sets in. There's a certain lifestyle that comes in. But I think the final thing is, the final drive is, what's my legacy? What is it that I'm going to do that I'm going to be known for? And if I've got everything else settled down, then I think there's no harm in going for that plunge. So yes, I think everybody will have to take that call based upon their ability and mix, right, on risk taking and where you are in your life stage. But the point is, if the urge and the drive has finally reached a critical point, then just go for it, because you're going to regret it for the rest of the life that I didn't take the plunge. So I think one, you have something that's internal to you. If it's driving you, not letting you sleep, and say, I want to do this, I just have to do this, what an idea, let it go. Go for it. Because you will figure things out. You're smart enough, and you got enough things going on for you that will support you. So go for the plunge. Second, and most important, be extremely resourceful, and don't try to do it alone. Again, look for peers, look for friends, look for support, and create a whole sort of ecosystem that will get you there. So I would encourage people that have no regrets in life. Sooner or later, it's going to catch up with you. The faster you get there, as they always say, it's all a cliche. If you got to do it now.
That's an amazing philosophy to have. So again, how did it manifest in you taking up the charge for the endowment office?
So, I think there comes a time in your life, right? Afterwards, especially I think after you cross about 50, or maybe that's when it come to me, that you sort of, you've always been grateful for everything that you've been experiencing, right? Philosophically, once again, I've had a life which I have a lot of people to thank for. And if I had started to look back and see where I was, realize that it really all began with sort of both the institute, the friends that we met, and a lot of people along the way. And you feel that you owe that everything that somebody's helped you, you need to pay it forward. You need to do the same for others. We were having a 35th reunion at IIT Delhi, the 85 batch, and again 2 batches. And that was the time when the Dean of Alumni Affairs, Professor Sanghi and Professor Rao, well, when they had their get together in the Senate room, they were sharing with us on this whole creation of the endowment fund. That they said a group of of the alumnus have got together. They've been working in seeking government approvals to set up a fund very much on the lines of Yale, Harvard, Stanford, etc. And yes, we're going to create this, and we're going to have leadership in it. That's going to be, we're going to take some of the best people. We know we have to be competitive, and we want to make it in the same ways and the structure that they did it in the other universities. So when we got together afterwards, our group, that's when this whole idea said, hey, look, they're recruiting for that. And when this foundation is created, Vinay, you're back in the country. We'd like you to be a part of it. You're a guy who's sort of done all this kind of thing. It'll be great to have you and be committed to doing that. And to that group, I committed that, yes, whenever the opportunity comes and whenever they're recruiting for it, I will definitely have a look. And that's exactly what happened. A few months later, I got a call that Vinay, they posted a job for the Endowment Foundation, Management Foundation. Why don't you go ahead and apply? And that's exactly what I did. And it was wonderful to go through that selection process because I had a chance to meet with all the founders. They had the endowment board that was created and set up. There was a lot of coverage on the news on how this was going to be the first of its kind and others to do it. And I just loved, being a part of something which was getting formative because, you could go there and set it up and be a part of that culture and setting it. I was very passionate about giving back to the institute. And I said, well, what better way than to provide my management skill and everything that I had learned and do it over here. And fortunately, I was selected at the end, and with the full support of all the founders, the endowment board, the directors of the institute, the deans of the institute, we had this wonderful structure that we were setting up. We set up the articles of association. We set up the overall corporate structure. We sort of set up the foundational, the whole process of outreach, and then also to select a team which would get set up. So we had a lot of help. Fortunately, IIT Bombay, IIT Kanpur were also doing similar things. Yes. So my peers, my counterparts at Kanpur, my counterpart at Bombay, we had to get together and learned about it. And most important, can you imagine you had a role or a job where what you were doing was contacting old friends? Yes. Right? I mean, I couldn't have asked for anything better. So had a chance to be, there was a lot of people who wanted to know more and more about it, and took the personal time to do it. So we were on Zoom calls, with America, and over here had a chance to, have get-togethers and sort of, town halls with the director and others and talk about it. So, and everybody had an input. Everybody had a thought, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that, how can I do this one? So the idea of, having a process, having a methodology where we could show how the contributions they were making were going to make a difference, a vision of where the institute was, talking about it, being a part of it, it was extremely interesting to just be there, to just be in the room where all these topics were getting discussed. And how else do you think, what a wonderful way to be able to give back and pay it forward. Being a part of a process and contributing to understanding where it is that the institute can be developed further. So learned a lot also from others in other institutes around the world. We took some of those, shared it, and created opportunities. And a lot of the interest was in setting up for entrepreneurship and bringing those discussions and trying to develop them into actions and activities where the institute got more and more involved with entrepreneurship activities was also another great sort of discussions that we were having as part of the Endowment Foundation. So I feel good that I spent the time, I was able to give back in some form, and that the management and the sort of the strategic approach that we had in developing the foundation has today brought about a foundational to take it further from there. So wonderful to have been a part of that.
So what sort of vision do you hold for Alumni as well as the institute?
So the idea is that exactly what we have seen from other private institutes and all. Funding was always the challenge. The fact is that if we have a vision of where we want to take the institute, we guys are so smart, we know how to figure it out and support the institute on it. I think if we take projects that are really close to ourselves, work with the institute, align it with the vision and development opportunity it has, we can both work together in complete harmony as well as in complete network to be able to take and develop the institute further and further. The same way in which American universities have done, the governance of the process has been established, the ability to execute projects that have been taken and funded has been established. You have roles and responsibilities within the institute and a foundation now established. I think we have the absolute opportunity now to sustain, but more importantly, raise more and more contributions to causes that are dear to us, to all of us. So what a great, I would say, way to go forward.
The institute has also, I think, has now got those facilities where these opportunities as well, where the infrastructure is already getting built and even thought of, right? So, example, we have LHC, we have the Mithil Sports Complex, which are very, very new infrastructure projects which have come up, and we're also looking at the redevelopment of hostels. So, what sort of an appeal do you have for the people who are looking in and even want to give back? You've outlined what sort of a role the Institute and the Endowment Foundation is playing. But what is the message that you want to give your friends?
So, if I when we set up the foundation and the endowment fund and its purpose, the idea there are two types of things, right? There's one generally. The institute has a plan and has a sort of developmental activities going on for the next few years, which is some of the mundane stuff. Getting the hostel upgraded or maintenance, getting sort of the facilities and everything that are here upgraded to better laboratories and all. That's where the general fund comes in. So even a small amount, no matter how small or how large, put into the general fund gets incorporated into the overall development of the institute. And the Institute Senate and the departments are working very, very closely to sort of make it in competitiveness to other institutes. So I think that is sort of a very sustainable contribution that we can all make to the institute. The others are special purpose fund, activities that we would like to support. It is something dear to us. I've seen certain alumnus who said cybersecurity is something I believe is where we need the IIT Delhi can excel in, and we'd like to support that. So, is there an opportunity for us to support, academically or in terms of a scholarship or more research activities? There's a number of activities. I mean, we were surprised at how far the institute had taken. And in different areas, there was textile, there was physics, there was, in civil engineering. So all of these things are available. So that's another opportunity. Yes. I think the best thing to do is come over to the endowment office, have a discussion, and you could see how your contributions can really make a difference. And please, even the smallest contribution goes a long way in the institute. It's an endowment, which means it is forming a corpus. That corpus is then invested, and the institute's done a lot of good work to make sure that the investments that are being made are being done in a very competitive nature, which gives us the best returns on investment, and which is therefore able to sustain it in perpetuity. Yes. Wow. I mean, this is exactly, and you can, if there's something that you would like to sort of have in memoriam of somebody that you had made a difference to you in your life, you'd like to set up a chair, then all of this, or in a family member, all those opportunities make sure that level of gratitude and that level of being able to give back and pay it forward is sort of also recognized by everyone and inspires everybody and empowers everybody to do much, much more. So it is the alma mater. There's, we have a lot to be grateful for, and I think paying it forward is the best way to sort of keep it going. I think that's really what this is about.
I mean, it's a wonderful pitch, if I may say so. Your passion really shows for the institute. And like, are there any, on a lighter note, any places specific which you want to visit today?
There are 3 places that I spent more time than I think I did in classrooms. Okay? One was the seminar hall.
Yeah.
The seminar hall was where we did a lot of plays. I did, like I said, a number of plays in the institute as well as from the hostel. That's where I made a lot of my friends. But that was more important. I got to meet people from other disciplines and other hostels, and that's how we got together. The second, of course, is our own hostel. You know, I understand that a lot of changes have happened there. I'd love to see where it is now. But I also seen it's getting overloaded. You know, at our time we were all, I think, double rooms in the first year, second year, and then we had single rooms. But now I hear it's 3 per room. So I think there's a lot to be done there. I'd like to see what's there. And then, of course, it was the swimming pool. I used to swim every day. I used to be water polo captain for my thing. So yes, that's another thing because I heard they've upgraded that tremendously. I'd love to see where that new things are. I was part of the Mittal Sports Complex when it was developed, yes. So I'd love to go and see that also again and see it active. That time it was under construction and sort of inaugurated, yes. But it'd be great to see everybody taking part and making full use of that opportunity to have a world-class sports facility now on campus.
Any fond memories from the hostel?
Fond memories of the hostel, you know, I was cultural secretary of Kara. And one thing that, at our time, as I mentioned, Rendezvous was a great period where we had the right level of diversity. Yes. But we also wanted to sort of create, as a hostel level, how could we have socials, with other colleges on other things. So the one thing I remember as cultural secretary, having the first ever social in Kara. Oh. Yes. So we decided that, look, we're going to have a social at a hostel level where we would invite, another hostel of another university, right, and invite them over for an evening and a social where, where we could host and have an interactions and all that. So I remember how we went through approvals with the warden, with the, with the board, hostel board, and we were said, go ahead. And there were lots of terms and conditions and everything which was set up, but we said, we'll work it, and we worked to it. And that's where, for the first time ever, I think it was Aravali that did it and followed the same playbook, Jwala, and then us at Kara. So that was one thing I will remember.
That sounds amazing. I think it's one of the first as well, right?
Yes, it was the
so
first.
I think it do it. So
I did it with JM. We had ours with JMC, yeah, which is in fact one more level of taking it further, where they didn't have a hostel.
Right.
They had a day. It was more of a day college. But those are contacts that we had, and we were able to work out, and we actually had a social with JMC.
So many firsts to your credit.
No. I think the idea was. Academics, I think one thing, I never allowed academics to sort of slow me down. Yes. I realized, you got to realize that I'm not going to be a 10-pointer. I was very clear. I'm not going to go because there's so much more things for me to do during my youth. So I said, what's a level that will be reasonable and how much can I balance? So I put a balance on each and everything. Then what did we do? Other friends and peers also did the same. And we did, the first thing was, guys, I can't attend every class if I have to do this. So we had a group, somebody went to this class, I went to this class, and then during the minor majors, we would all get together the evening before, make sure the other taught us and had our notes, and that's how we managed to do all these things together. That's what I remember about my time.
So it's been a lovely conversation. I would love to continue, but I think for the lack of time right now.
No, please, I love it. And thank you so much for having me, and thank you for your patient listening to my journey.
Yeah, so we hope to welcome you back again. Please, again, it's your own office as you had set up, and to all alumni as well.
No, thank you.
So please treat this place as your own, and you're always welcome.
Thank you for maintaining it so well. I've come after almost a year and a half, yeah, and I'm so glad to see it being maintained so well. You guys are still keeping that, showing the way on doing that. So good job, guys.